Welcome back to Talk with TQ. I'm really happy to do this show, and I have very interesting people in my life, and often I want to feature them, on my show. As many of you will recall, because you've been following me for many years, I did have a radio show, and occasionally on this show, I bring some of my guests to this great TV show. And today, we have a few guests on the show. We have some human guests, and we have some canine guests as well. I'm interviewing a lovely woman. Her name is FRANIA Shelley-GRIELEN. She is an animal behaviorist, and she does know a lot about this. I had the good fortune to actually interview her on my radio show a few years ago, and she still does what she does. And today we're going to be talking about some interesting things, specifically with regard to dogs, and we have some canine guests on the set as well. Welcome, Shelley.
Hi, Toni. So nice to be
FRANIA.
back.
FRANIA.
Okay. Nice to be back with you. Always good to sit and talk with you, and thanks for the opportunity to do some more of it today.
It's my pleasure. Yeah. Now, you were up in Peekskill a little while ago where you were actually helping a friend of ours with problems with her cat, Figaro.
So cats, one of the biggest complaints that you get with cats is inappropriate elimination and intercat aggression. Okay, dogs, it tends to be barking and then aggression. So that is something, when it comes to any kind of an issue, you first want to rule out medical. Make sure there's nothing wrong with your pet, because especially with a cat, inappropriate elimination can be a urinary tract infection, which especially you really want to grab those as quickly as you can. Then you look at training, and then you go to behavior. So that's kind of the way that works when you're trying to isolate and identify. And with litter box preferences, it's really about trying to determine what does the cat prefer, what is the cat avoiding. So you have to kind of do a lot of detective work and then putting your cat suit on to do it.
Your cat suit.
Your cat suit. So you got to take off the people suit. So the people may like perfumed clumping litters with tops on them next to the washing machine in the closet. And the cat wants to have a larger litter pan without a top on it, not next to the washing machine, which makes all these thumps and noises. And so if you kind of start to take it that way and think, what does the cat prefer, you can start doing a little bit of sleuthing and figure it out. And then carpet is one of our biggest issues when it comes to whether it's cats or dogs with elimination, because it stays in the carpet.
I think they're probably, I imagine it appeals to them because of texture.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They like, so there's your preference. It's soft. So it's soft if you're going to kind of squat on it and relieve yourself, so they like that. And then the nose, no matter what you're doing to clean it up, unless you're using a kind of enzymatic type cleaner, which needs repeated application, you really have to always take it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell the audience that you were actually very instrumental in changing this cat's behavior, which people said it was impossible to change this cat's behavior. And I don't know what the actual outcome is, but I do know that he's better. I don't know if it's 100%, but my friend is not in tears all the time because she really thought she was going to have to do something drastic like give him away, but who wants a cat when you know the cat's going to pee on your rug? Why would you want the cat?
Right. So you also can look at the preference, and then there's another thing too where you do have communication. Elimination does have a communication aspect to it. Think about dogs.
Yes.
Especially male dogs or male cats, if they haven't been neutered, they'll do marking.
Yeah.
Right? And you have something which is called middling, where sometimes you'll even have a cat that will defecate in an inappropriate place, and usually it's something drastic changed in the environment. You moved. There's someone that moved in with you who doesn't like the animal. You know, there's another cat that's outside all the time. So you this detective kind of thing that I'm talking about, where you really look at the environment and you say, what's going on? And what can I supply in terms of being able to change it? So it is totally doable to do it. It takes consideration, and to consider and start thinking about what does the animal need, and any time you want to change behavior, you have to offer something as good as, if not better, than what the
Than
animal
what they
is
already
doing,
had, yeah.
what they're doing.
Okay.
Right?
How did you learn all of this? Where did you go to school? Because you seem to know an awful lot.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm a graduate of the master's program at Hunter College, City University of New York, Animal Behavior and Conservation Program, which is a fabulous program because there are a lot of master's programs in animal science, but this behavior program is more welfare based, and so instead of looking at animals as food products, or which is what a lot of what animal science is, and there's definitely a need for that. So it's not at an agricultural school.
Yeah.
But I did my thesis, for instance, at the Queen Zoo, the Wildlife Conservation Society.
Oh, that was very interesting.
It was interesting, and I worked with thick-billed parrots. I also did pilot study with it's a great zoo. It's all North American animals.
Right.
So you get away from like importing animals that are not native to the area, which is an important thing to do.
And it sounds like very interesting. It sounds like very engaging.
Yeah, it's a great place, and they do a lot of good work, the Wildlife Conservation Society. It's an AZA zoo, so they're accredited. So
AZA?
American Zoological Association. In other words, the zoo has to meet a higher standard. So, which is a whole nother conversation, I guess, about keeping captive animals, but you always want to provide for welfare. So I studied behavior, and I look a lot at welfare, a lot of what is good for these animals. What do they have what they want? Do they have what they need? How can we partner as pet guardians and provide for that with them? Because we're different species. I mean, we're talking about felines, and you've got Lillian sitting here who's a canine, and she is an amazing animal in the sense that not only have we domesticated her so that she's a completely different species than a wolf or a jackal, but she's co-evolved with us.
Yes.
So that she relies not just on her primary sense, which would be olfactory, right?
Yeah,
her nose.
right.
She looks at you.
She does.
She's become visual, and they've figured us out, I think, in a lot of ways more than we've figured them out.
Yeah, it's very true, and I think it shows in the intelligence. I won't go on and on about how intelligent my dog is.
but she is.
She is. She's amazingly, to this day, she still amazes me at some of her behavior, sort of demonstrates her intelligence.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm not being too intelligent, she is, and I'm trying to think and figure out, like, why are you sitting over there? Why won't you move from there? And then I find out why. She wants me to notice something that's above her, and she'll sit there. She'll get in my path, so this way I won't forget about her.
Does she direct her? Does she get your gaze directed? Does she look at the thing and then look at you, and then look at the thing and then look at you?
She does that, yeah. And sometimes I don't catch it. Like I catch her looking at me, and I think that's, in a way that might be somewhat egotistical, and I forget that she's looking at me and looking at this.
So she'll do that, and that's one of the big differences with dogs and wolves, where they did a study where you raise a wolf by hand and you give it a food treat, put it in a box, and do the same thing with the dog, and the wolf will just try to get the treat, doesn't matter if it can get it or not, and the dog will look at the human for assistance when it can't open.
Right, exactly. For her, she'll do it for permission.
Yep.
Permission. But she's an unusual case because she's bred for a specific reason. But getting back to cats versus dogs. Now, do you see like there's a real difference between the relationship that a cat would have with its owner versus a dog? I find that cats aren't very needy.
It's such an interesting thing that you say that, because sometimes I say that cats are the stepchild of the companion animal world.
Really?
We actually, as a society, have more cats than dogs. I don't know if you realize that. Cats are the #1 pet right now in the United States.
Oh, I can see that.
However, more people have dogs. Okay, so why? So people typically have more than one cat. So they'll have 2 cats. So more households have dogs as pets, but there are more cats in pet households.
Okay, so there are more cats per person.
Exactly. So you have Lillian. I have Daisy. I have a dog.
Right.
But you may have, people typically have 2 or 3 cats.
Right.
So they'll talk about the cats. So cats, number one, you're right in the sense when you say less needy, in that less domestication. We've had dogs for a much longer period of time. We've been breeding them for longer. We've really put a lot of selection pressure on them. I mean, this is a retriever. She's a working dog.
She's
right?
a working dog, but she's a retired dog.
She's retired, but her whole breed, all dogs worked with us. They did a ton of work for us, whether it was herding, carrying things, helping with hunting. So they've been with us for longer. When we became, we stopped being, even as hunter-gatherers, they were out there hunting with us.
Yeah.
Cats, you got much less time in the thousands and thousands of years of domestication, and it was kind of like an adjunct thing, like let me get the rodents for you.
Yeah.
We don't really get them out there and work with them, kind of a thing. So you do see less of that. However, I will say that cats are as social, but they're different.
Yeah.
You interact with Lillian. You call her over to you, you walk her, you play with her. We kind of expect the cat to come to us.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I suggest if you've got like cat aggression, or you want to change your relationship with a cat, or you've got a new person that comes in, is to have a person play with the cat.
Yeah.
With an actual interactive toy. So you'll see more of a different kind of a relationship. So when you look at the difference with cats and dogs, where's the human part of it? Where's our interaction? And then, in terms of them not being as needy, I would say they can't open that can of cat food or scoop out that cat box.
Right.
And some of them, depending on their personality, are going to be more gregarious, are going to be more social.
Yeah.
Cats, interestingly enough, science doesn't like to talk about personalities with cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But with cats, we actually have studies that we chart their personality types: timid, shy. We do this whole thing with what kind of cat is more appropriate for a person to have, to try to match them so that we have successful pairings and they stay and don't get returned to shelters.
Yeah, we don't want that, because we know what happens there. It's a sort of sad thing when you think about it. But you have a company actually that you work with, and give us the URL.
So you can find me at www.animalsbehaving.com.
Animalsbehaving.com.
Right.
Okay. And so do you work with another animal behaviorist in this company, or are you the sole proprietor?
It's me. I'm the one who does the work, goes out there.
Okay.
And so I do the research, I do the consulting, and I do a lot of everything that you'll find on my website I have a lot of case histories, I have a lot of practical tips, a lot of strategy on how to actually do some of these things, like we talked about the litter box that for cats, and even with dogs about walking them and what to do if they're fearful, or if you've got aggression, house training, the kind of stuff you need to know when you're living with a dog or a cat.
So your clients are basically homeowners, or home dwellers with domestic animals in their house.
I'm doing a lot of work with that. I do work with wildlife too. So for instance, in New York City, we now have raccoons. Oh,
that's like the latest pet predator, I guess.
Well, we brought them into the area. They're great opportunists, right? So like deer, we kind of have a shift in a balance of a food chain of having a lot of natural predators. And so we have some wildlife that does very well: Canada geese, raccoons, deer in suburban and urban areas. Skunks, right? Skunks the new one, that's right.
Skunks are with us.
Yeah.
They hang around in cities these days. I'm like shocked by it.
But it's for them, it's a food source. It's like human garbage.
Yeah.
Human garbage. Raccoons are actually healthier eating our garbage than they would be if they're just dining off what's in the forest.
Okay, that's good.
Less roundworm in we don't have parasites in our garbage. You didn't finish the food, and the raccoon can get into it, and it's like yum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raccoons, they can tear it up. but skunks are the latest thing. I think it's interesting that a lot of people have domestic animals like a dog or a cat, and yet when you walk down the street with your dog, or you walk in your neighborhood with your dog, I know that I've always had to be cognizant everywhere that we've lived, Lily and I, of skunks and raccoons, especially at night. Don't go under that, don't look under that car, you know, don't go in those bushes.
So for basically the raccoons and the skunks pretty much want to be left alone.
They do.
And the dog sometimes can be too inquisitive and get too close, and that's really the only, when you look at interactions, any kind of aggressive interaction, it's usually defense on the raccoon's part. So the best thing, and the one thing too in the Northeast and in Canada, we do find rabies in the raccoon population, and there's vaccination programs that are going on, so there's attempts to control that, and it's not an aggressive animal, but the best thing to do is just leave them alone. Just leave them alone. And if you're feeding cats outside, which people do, you're going to be feeding opossums and raccoons.
I know a lot of people do that. They feed squirrels and they don't realize they're feeding the rats.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know, you might just address that. People think they're doing a favor to wildlife when they go and they leave like breadcrumbs and stuff in like on a field or next to a building. They don't realize that you might think that sure the squirrel might come to you and know you're coming, but then right after that, who's coming?
Which, right, it's food, and so anybody who's in the area is going to compete for it. I think the thing also to look at is you're supporting now that population. So you're providing food. What you see a lot is people will have summer homes, and they'll start to feed the birds, or they'll feed whatever, and then they leave. Now the animal doesn't know that it was a temporary situation.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe they have babies, or maybe there's a certain number that are drawn to that area, and now you take the food away.
Right.
You also create, especially with urban cat colonies, and cats can reproduce like crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
Oh. So if you're doing it, you need to be trap and neutering and giving them sufficient time when you neuter. Make sure you can do it. They can't go back out after a day or two. The females need at least a week to recover.
Yeah.
And putting these cats then back on the street, fine. But if you're feeding them, they're going to reproduce.
Yeah, people think that they're doing a service when they do that. And so many people don't realize it's not a good thing. I think it's just basic ignorance. Someone needs to tell them, you're not doing anybody any favor by feeding them.
Right.
You know, enough about that, because, you know, people get very sensitive about that. They do. They say, but the squirrels know me, the birds come to me. It's like, but still, so do the rats come to me, you know, every time you feed those birds. But I think that's interesting that you know, I guess it is part of the ecosystem, even though the dogs we have, the cats we have that we own are domesticated, it's still part of that ecosystem that we live within. Now, I'm going to talk to you about like different behaviors. Now, like we have two dogs here today. We have Dreyfus and we have Lillian. Lillian,
oh, good girl.
Lillian's the quintessential good dog. She is, but she's really trained and bred to be the way she is. I can't take credit for it. Dreyfus is a good dog too, but very different personalities. Dreyfus is kind of comical in his ways, and a little bit of a bull in the china shop, very well-meaning. But I sense that Dreyfus, knowing both dogs, that they're kind of like playmates, Dreyfus has a little separation anxiety, I suspect.
So what is that, when you say separation anxiety, what does it look like?
Well, if his mother decides to leave, let's say he comes to visit, you know, I say fairly frequently, and everything's fine, you know, he has certain behaviors that I find kind of odd. But one that's very unusual to me is that if this dog just gets so upset if his owner actually goes outside or goes to the restroom or goes to say, I'm going to get coffee, coming back.
So when he's upset, okay?
He barks.
Okay, so he barks.
He barks.
And how long does the barking, does it stop after a while?
No. It stops like after a little bit of conversation. You know, I'm not like one to yell at him so much, you know, because he doesn't know the same commands that Lillian knows for something like that. I don't believe in discouraging a dog from barking.
So barking is.
I think barking is a good thing for a dog.
We have created this. We've selected for it. So wolves don't bark like dogs do.
Yeah.
We have created this. We like that. Guard dogs. Barking is attention-getting behavior, right? It's attention-getting, and you can have alert barking. Look, there's somebody here. You can have alarm barking, or you can have request. So I can get your attention. So I can ask for something. So one thing that I like to say when a dog barks is, you said something very interesting. You said that it stops after a little conversation.
Yeah, I have a little conversation. I say, I actually talk to him. I say, Dreyfus, be reasonable. You know she's coming back.
So you've acknowledged when you said that, and I am a big believer in actually communicating, talking to them, you know, not kind of ignoring. So when the dog barks, saying, Dreyfus, I know she left, she'll be back.
That's exactly what I say.
But let him have 1 or 2 barks and then say it.
Yeah, right, okay.
And then when he's quiet, good quiet, Dreyfus.
Oh, you got to tell him why he's good.
And so what people will say to me often, because barking, I get a lot of barking, especially in New York, you can imagine. New York City, apartments, barking, big deal, you know?
Yeah, incessant.
Oh, they worry about the neighbors. So one thing with the barking is when he stops doing it, then you good quiet, good no barking, whatever it is you want to say. And people will say, but aren't I rewarding him for the barking? No, you're rewarding him because he stopped
stopped barking.
It. Right, exactly. The thing that people don't understand, cat or dog, they don't get the lecture. They don't, like, you know, they stop doing the thing. Now you're supposed to reward them. You can't explain to him why it was bad that he was barking.
Yeah.
Because he stopped. It's not, they didn't go to school, they didn't get the language. So, you know, he doesn't get the lecture.
He didn't even get a high school diploma, this one.
Not even kindergarten.
Got nothing. Self-taught.
But see, that's the thing. They're so smart that way, because a lot of the studies that we do, what are we doing? We're talking about, does he understand what we're saying?
He knows we're talking about him.
Right. Does he got the words, he got the command, he knows how to do this, he knows how to do that. So he's got us, you know, he pretty much does have us down. So he will stop doing the barking, and then you talk to him.
Yeah.
And so then, is it over then, or?
Pretty much, but he'll sit by the door, and he'll sit there, just like he's sitting now. He'll sit just like that at the door, and not move, just like that. I mean, not even lay down.
Okay. So this, again, is natural in a way that he is attached and loves his person and wants her to come back. And a lot of the times you'll see that you can go to a doggy daycare, any one of the doggy daycares, and there's going to be a number of dogs that are going to be on the perimeter. Waiting for mom or dad to come back.
Yeah.
They'd rather be home. Some of them.
Yeah.
Waiting for mom with all the smells that
Even though it could be like a 3-week vacation, they'd rather be home.
Some of them, yeah, and then you have them walked a couple of times. So when you say separation anxiety, to me as a behaviorist, I'm thinking, is he taking the couch apart? Is he ripping is he taking the curtains down? Is he nonstop barking? So this might be actual normal behavior for a dog that wants to be reunited with this person and has a very strong bond, and that's normal. That's typical that they would. I am sure that if you brought Lillian somewhere and you left, you would see similar behavior.
Yeah, I've been told how she behaves. She'll basically sit and she'll look and she'll watch me go, I'm told, for as long as she can see it. And for a while she'll go to the door and she'll hang out by the door, but then she acclimates. But she's a different breed, and also a breed that's bred for a specific purpose.
Okay.
You know, so, you know, I can't take credit for her good behavior, but when you talk about separation anxiety, I have seen it.
Yeah.
In another dog, it was Buster and Pogo. Oh my God. And I was like in charge of taking care of and I'll tell you 2 incidents. Big dogs, about the same size of these 2, and Buster pulled down the blinds off the window.
See, this is when
he pulled them down.
You're talking
and
now,
scratched at the window like this.
This extreme state.
It was really
a panic. It's a panic.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. And sometimes what can happen is it takes different forms where it can subside. And then, so we're on the level, are we charting it with what's going on, with what's happening with them? Some of them get extremely sick. They can get sick to the stomach. And there are things to do with that. You know, there's a school of thought that says, don't let the dog see you leave, kind of sneak out the back.
Mm-hmm.
And you get better results if you tell the dog you're going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for Buster and Pogo, instead of like just, I'll see you later, Buster, maybe even find something that the dog gets only when you leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing like some kind of food stuff toy, you can feed the diet at that time, a frozen treat. Classical music is really great.
This is good. You'll have to come back.
Okay, so
I want you to definitely come back and visit with us because I love talking about animals. Maybe next time we'll have like a cat. I mean, Lillian likes cats. She wouldn't have to worry about it, but I'd like to talk to you about the relationship between cats and dogs.
and we could even do maybe a little bit of, you know, just training things or showing how to deal, even like what I'm doing right now with Dreyfus, petting the chest of a dog, especially if you have an excitable dog.
Yeah.
This is going to be more soothing.
They like
This
it.
is more arousing.
Yeah.
So we tend to do this, and this actually is going to bring up the energy, and that's actually going to bring it down.
Lillian, I pet her chest. She enjoys that.
It's a very
She
soothing
enjoys
thing
it.
to do.
Yeah. So anyway, we're good. I see that the natives are getting restless here. Lillian's about to do her little dance. Oh, you're not? You got wiggle? Yeah. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I thank you so much for coming. Thanks for bringing Dreyfus, Anne, and thank you for all the great information. Please go to animalsbehaving.com. That's Frania's website, and she has a book coming out, Cats and Dogs.
Cats and dogs, and that's the mock-up of the cover, so it may be tweaked a little bit, but look for that.
Yeah, look for that, and you'll come back and talk about that with us
cool.
as well.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you, Toni.
I appreciate, and thank you again. I'll thank the audience. Please come back again to the next show. There'll be another interesting one really soon. And be well and be nice to your pets, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.